Shalom to Dr. Ronen Shoval, Dean of the Tikva Foundation and head of the Argaman Institute.
Shalom.
So this week, a special conference about really how the postmodernism is seeping into the educational institutions, into our everyday life. How much is that so?
So I think this is a cultural thing. We are living inside postmodernism world, which is influencing every aspect of our life, from culture, through education, through sports, through politics. The absence of good and bad, right and wrong, it's a phenomena which we live inside it, and we need to deal with it. And I think the educational question is a huge question. How can we educate our kids in a time where right and wrong are not clear anymore?
But what do you do with the ideals and concepts that are true and that are even important about equality, issues that some of the postmodernism have come from?
So when we're talking about the postmodern area, we need to notice that we have two kinds of ideas. One of them is the postmodern, which means the absence of truth and the abundance of big ideas. And at the same time, what I would call a postmodern ideas, which are more tendent to look for the inequality or people who are less powerful in the society. And when we are dealing with those ideas, we need to be very smart of how we can deal with them. So we need to decide, we need to look very carefully about the ideas which we can work with and get inspiration with. And we need to identify the ideas which are dangerous for our culture and say, okay, we don't want those ideas. And our ability to find and to be very smart about what we adopt and what we decide not to adopt is the most important thing when you're thinking about the educational program of the students. Okay, because when you're coming to students and telling them, okay, there is no history. History is actually two words: his story. Okay, and that's it. You don't have history anymore because it's always a question of agenda, of perspective, and you don't have a full story. How can you educate with it? You need to tell a big story of what happened in that, for example, that we create our state and there is and the Holocaust happened and so on.
But with the agenda.
With being aware that you have an agenda. Okay, being aware that, and this agenda is a good one.
Right.
But in the same time, you need to be aware that when you're looking at, I would say, zoom in, some of the stories need to be examined, and that the truth itself, as we say in the Bible, have 70 faces, and we need to recognize all of them.
But as opposed to postmodernism, you do recognize that it's truth.
I would say, yeah, that's a truth, that we have a truth. I would say that in the Bible we have 70 faces and not 71. So where is the 71 faces of the Bible? What's outside the story? So let's take the example of the Holocaust. Okay, so you can say, okay, you have millions of stories about it. You can say that it happened in many different ways. But if you would say, okay, it didn't happen, okay, this is out of the story. Okay, so this is exactly how we can think about the education. We need to be able to tell different perspective of the truth, but we shouldn't forget that there is a truth.
What do you tell our viewers or maybe audience at this conference that you're having this week that will say, it's very interesting what you're saying, that's what's happening in the world, but we're okay. We're, for example, religious, traditional. We have a set of values. It's irrelevant to us.
So since we're living inside the world, we can't tell to ourselves that what's happening in the world is not relevant to us, because we're always part of the discussion. Okay, so you can't ignore the reality and say it's not happening to me. It is happening to you, and the kind of challenges that are arising in our generation are different from what happened in the past. So the fact that today a family is no longer a father and a mother, or is not necessarily father and mother, this is a social phenomena. So you can say it's not relevant to us, but it is still a challenging, at least from educational point of view, that you need to address those phenomena. Okay, how do you address it? What are the tools that you have in your toolbox?
And sometimes the messages, they reach each and every one of us in a way that we don't even notice.
Yes, of course, this is part of the culture. If you're watching TV, if you're reading newspaper, if you open website, that's what's over there, okay? That's happening all around us. So we can't ignore the challenge. We have to give our students and our teachers as well tools to identify the challenges and identify what we can actually maybe sometimes learn out of it. Okay, but we can't ignore it and think it's not relevant to us.
Okay, Dr. Ronen Chaval, Dean of the Tikva Foundation and head of the Argaman Institute. Thank you very much and good luck at the conference.
Thank you very much.